Hello and welcome back to Deep Dives with SmartBookWorms. I'm Kris Stopher, your virtual book guru host for today's show. Join me, Martina, Amanda, Claire, Megan and Nathan, my co-presenters and fellow virtual book gurus, as we dive deep into dystopian novels, a comparative analysis from authors you love to read. In today's episode, we'll be diving deep into 5 incredible books by 5 iconic authors. Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games presents a nation where children fight to the death in a televised spectacle. Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 portrays a future where books are banned and firemen burn knowledge. Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale examines a theocratic regime that oppresses women and controls reproduction. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World depicts a technologically advanced society that prioritizes stability over individual freedom. And finally, George Orwell's 1984 explores totalitarian control through surveillance and manipulation of language. Each novel explores themes of power, control, oppression, and the human spirit's resilience. So let's dive deep into today's Deep Dive, a comparative analysis of dystopian novels.
The Hunger Games, Katniss's Journey. Summary of The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games, by Suzanne Collins, is a dystopian novel set in Panem, a nation formed from the ruins of North America. The story is narrated by 16-year-old Katniss Everdeen, who lives in District 12, the poorest district known for coal mining. The story begins on the Day of the Reaping, an annual event where one boy and one girl from each of the 12 districts are selected to participate in the Hunger Games. The games are a brutal televised event where the tributes fight to the death until only one remains. Katniss volunteers as tribute when her younger sister, Primrose, is selected, demonstrating her fierce protectiveness. The male tribute from District 12 is Peeta Mellark, the baker's son who once gave Katniss bread when her family was starving. Katniss and Peeta are taken to the capital by their escort, Effie Trinket, and their mentor, Haymitch Abernathy, the only living victor from District 12. Haymitch, however, struggles with alcoholism and initially provides little guidance. During their time in the capital, Katniss and Peeta undergo extensive training and transformation by their stylists. Katniss is presented as the girl who was on fire due to her stunning costume at the opening ceremony. Peeta, during his interview, confesses his love for Katniss, creating a star-crossed lovers narrative that captivates the audience and potentially attracts sponsors. Katniss, though, is unsure of Peeta's true feelings and motives. During the games, Katniss relies on her hunting skills and resourcefulness to survive. She forms an alliance with Rue, a young tribute from District 11, who reminds her of Prim. However, the alliance is short-lived as Rue is tragically killed. Katniss mourns Rue deeply and defies the capital by adorning her body with flowers and singing a lullaby, earning her the sympathy of viewers and the anger of the capital. Meanwhile, Peeta has allied himself with the Careers, a group of tributes from wealthier districts who are trained for the games. Katniss is initially angry and distrustful, believing Peeta is trying to kill her. However, Peeta helps Katniss escape the Careers, further fueling the star-crossed lovers narrative. Katniss and Peeta reunite and work together to survive, with Katniss caring for Peeta when he is severely injured. Their relationship, however, remains complicated. Katniss is unsure if Peeta truly loves her, or if it's a strategy to win the games and garner support from sponsors. As the games progress, the game makers manipulate events, forcing tributes into confrontations. Katniss outsmarts them by destroying their stockpile of supplies, earning their wrath. In a final showdown, Katniss and Peeta are pitted against Cato, the last remaining career tribute, and a pack of genetically engineered mutts. Cato dies a brutal death while Katniss and Peeta are left as the final 2 tributes. However, a rule change announces that only one victor can remain. In a desperate act of defiance, Katniss and Peeta decide to eat poisonous berries, choosing to die together rather than kill each other. This forces the game makers to declare them both victors. The novel concludes with Katniss and Peeta returning to the capital as victors, but they are warned by Haymitch that their act of rebellion has angered the capital. They must maintain their star-crossed lover's facade to avoid further repercussions. The ending leaves Katniss uncertain of her future and the consequences of her actions. She has won the Hunger Games, but at a great personal cost, and the fight for her and her loved one's survival is far from over.
Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury. Summary of Fahrenheit 451. The story takes place in a dystopian future where books are outlawed and firemen start fires instead of putting them out. The protagonist, Guy Montag, is a fireman who initially finds pleasure in burning books. However, his perspective begins to shift after he encounters Clarisse McClellan, a young woman who challenges the status quo and enjoys nature and conversation. Montag's internal conflict intensifies when he witnesses a woman choose to die with her books rather than live without them. This event leads him to question the purpose of his work and the society he lives in. Montag begins to steal books, hiding them in his home. He confides in his wife Mildred, but she is indifferent and more concerned with her superficial life and the family in her interactive television programs. Montag's unease grows, and he remembers a chance encounter with a retired English professor named Faber. He seeks out Faber, hoping to understand the value of books and knowledge. Faber guides Montag, encouraging him to think critically and question the societal norms. Faber helps Montag by providing him with a small, two-way radio earpiece so they can communicate. They develop a plan to challenge the book-burning system. Montag tries to engage Mildred and her friends with literature, hoping to spark their curiosity and awaken them to the power of words. However, his attempt backfires, as the women are horrified and disturbed by the emotional depth of the poetry he reads. Montag's actions lead to a confrontation with his fire captain, Beatty, who is well-read but defends the book-burning society. Beatty engages in a battle of wits with Montag, using his knowledge of literature to manipulate and confuse him. He reveals that he understands Montag's rebellious thoughts and warns him of the consequences. The climax occurs when Montag is called to respond to a fire at his own house. Mildred betrays him, reporting his possession of books. Beatty forces Montag to burn his own house. Overwhelmed by the destruction and betrayal, Montag turns the flamethrower on Beatty, killing him. Now a fugitive, Montag flees, pursued by the mechanical hound, a robotic weapon programmed to hunt book possessors. Guided by Faber's instructions, Montag escapes the city and finds refuge with a group of intellectuals living on the outskirts of society. These individuals, former professors and scholars, have memorized entire books to preserve knowledge. The group watches on a portable television as the authorities, unable to capture Montag, stage a fake death to appease the watching public. Montag joins the group, embracing their mission to carry and transmit knowledge for future generations. They believe that someday society will be ready to rediscover the power and importance of books. The book concludes with the city being destroyed in a nuclear war. The group of intellectuals, now guardians of the lost knowledge, set out to help rebuild society and reintroduce the wisdom contained in the books they carry in their minds.
The Handmaid's Tale, a critical analysis. Summary of The Handmaid's Tale. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood is a dystopian novel set in the Republic of Gilead, a totalitarian theocracy that has overthrown the United States government. The story is told from the perspective of Offred, a handmaid whose sole purpose is to bear children for the elite commanders and their barren wives. Offred's life in Gilead. Offred's life is severely restricted, with every aspect controlled by the state. She lives in a house with the commander and his wife, Serena Joy, and is allowed to leave only for sanctioned activities like shopping or attending ceremonies. Her movements are constantly monitored by guardians, the Gilead police force. Handmaids wear red uniforms and white veils, their names stripped away and replaced with patronyms like Offred, signifying their ownership by the commander Fred. To control handmaids, The Gilead regime employs strict rules, surveillance, and brutal punishments. They exploit religious justifications for their practices, drawing upon biblical stories about women like Rachel and Leah. Despite the constant fear and oppression, Offred finds small acts of rebellion and glimmers of hope in stolen moments of connection with other handmaids, like Ofglen. Memories and relationships. Interwoven with Offred's present-day narrative are flashbacks to her life before Gilead, offering glimpses of her former freedoms, her relationship with her husband Luke, and her daughter. The memories of her past life, particularly of her friend Moira's rebellious spirit, provide Offred with a source of strength and a reminder of the life she lost. The novel highlights the complexities of Offred's relationship with Serena Joy. Serena, a former televangelist who advocated for women's domesticity, now finds herself trapped in a system she helped create. Their interactions reveal a mixture of power dynamics, resentment, and a strange form of empathy, forbidden desires and rebellion. Driven by loneliness and a longing for connection, Offred engages in a forbidden affair with the commander's chauffeur, Nick. The relationship with Nick, while offering physical and emotional comfort, is fraught with danger and moral ambiguity. Offred learns of a secret resistance movement called Mayday. Ofglen, her shopping partner, reveals her involvement in the movement and invites Offred to join. However, Ofglen is later arrested, leaving Offred's fate uncertain. The Handmaid's Tale as historical artifact. The novel concludes with historical notes, set over 150 years after the events of the story. This section takes the form of a transcript from an academic symposium discussing the discovery and analysis of Offred's account, which was recorded on cassette tapes. The symposium raises questions about the authenticity and interpretation of the tapes, highlighting the challenges of reconstructing history from fragmented sources. The scholars discuss the social and political context of Gilead, analyzing its origins and the motivations of key figures like Commanders Waterford and Judd. Ultimately, the fate of Offred and the ultimate success or failure of the Mayday resistance remain unknown. The novel leaves readers to ponder the enduring relevance of its themes of oppression, resistance, and the power of storytelling. This summary focuses on the key plot points and characters in The Handmaid's Tale, providing a framework for understanding the novel's complex narrative and themes. It is important to note that this summary is just a starting point for engaging with the book. The richness of Atwood's writing lies in the details, the internal monologues, and the evocative language that brings Offred's world to life.
Summary of Brave New World. The novel Brave New World by Aldous Huxley is set in a futuristic world state where stability, identity, and community are paramount. The society is built upon a rigid caste system and the use of technology to control reproduction and behavior. World states control mechanisms. Bokanovsky's process. Humans are created in a hatchery and conditioning center, with embryos undergoing Bokanovsky's process, where a single egg can bud up to 96 identical humans, predestined for specific roles in society. Hypnopedic conditioning. This sleep-teaching method instills morals and social values into individuals from a young age, ensuring conformity and adherence to the world state's principles. Caste system. Society is divided into 5 castes: alphas, betas, gammas, deltas, and epsilons, each with predetermined intellectual and physical capabilities, ensuring a stable workforce and social hierarchy. Soma. A powerful drug that provides instant gratification and escapism, suppressing negative emotions and ensuring the populace remains content and complacent. Promiscuity. Encouraged and normalized to eliminate emotional attachments and possessiveness, further ensuring stability and preventing the formation of family units. Characters challenging the world state. Bernard Marx, an alpha-plus psychologist who feels alienated and ostracized due to his physical and emotional differences from others in his caste. Bernard desires meaningful relationships and questions the world state's values, Helmholtz Watson, an Alpha Plus lecturer and writer who, despite his success, feels stifled by the limitations imposed on creativity and self-expression in the world state. John, a savage raised on a reservation outside the world state, exposed to Shakespeare's works and traditional human experiences, including family, love, and suffering. Conflict and confrontation. Bernard and Lenina visit a savage reservation and bring John and his mother, Linda, back to London. Linda, having been conditioned in the world state, immediately seeks solace in Soma to escape the realities of the reservation and her unconventional motherhood. John becomes a sensation in London society, his unconventional beliefs and passionate nature contrasting sharply with the emotionally stunted and pleasure-seeking citizens. He challenges the foundations of the world state, advocating for individuality, freedom, and the right to experience the full spectrum of human emotions, including pain and suffering. Mustafa Mond's perspective. Mustafa Mond, the world controller, acknowledges the potential validity of John's arguments, but defends the world state's principles as necessary sacrifices for maintaining stability and happiness. He reveals that the world state has deliberately suppressed art, religion, and history to eliminate sources of conflict and emotional turmoil. He argues that individuals are ultimately happier within the confines of the world state, shielded from the uncertainties and potential suffering inherent in a life of freedom. The savage's choice. Ultimately, John finds himself unable to reconcile with the world state's values and chooses to isolate himself in a remote lighthouse. However, his quest for solitude is thwarted by the relentless intrusion of curious citizens eager to gawk at the savage they have seen in the Feelies. Driven to despair by the shallowness and relentless conformity of the world state, John tragically takes his own life. The novel ends with a chilling image of John's lifeless feet slowly rotating, symbolizing the futility of his struggle against the all-encompassing control of the world state.
1984. Power, Control, and the Past. Summary of 1984. 1984 is a dystopian novel by George Orwell published in 1949. The story follows Winston Smith, who lives in Oceania, a totalitarian state ruled by the party and its enigmatic leader, Big Brother. Oceania is in a perpetual state of war, its citizens under constant surveillance by the thought police and their thoughts and actions controlled through propaganda and manipulation of language. The setting: Oceania and totalitarianism. Oceania is one of 3 superstates that constantly battle for control of the world. The other 2 are Eurasia and Eastasia. The party, led by the ever-present image of Big Brother, maintains total control over every aspect of life in Oceania. Citizens are monitored through telescreens that transmit propaganda and allow the thought police to observe their actions and expressions. Individuality and independent thought, own life in newspeak, are discouraged and punished. The party rewrites history and manipulates information to maintain its power and control the narrative. Newspeak, a simplified and controlled language, is designed to limit thought and expression, ultimately making thought crime impossible. Winston Smith, the rebellious individual. Winston is an outer party member who works at the Ministry of Truth, rewriting history to align with the party's agenda. He feels a deep-seated resentment towards the party's control and longs for freedom and truth. Winston begins writing a diary, a forbidden act of self-expression and rebellion. He is drawn to the proles, the working class, believing they hold the potential to overthrow the party. Winston's rebellious spirit leads him to engage in a forbidden love affair with Julia, another party member who secretly despises the regime. Julia, the pragmatic rebel. Julia outwardly conforms to party expectations but secretly rebels through acts of personal pleasure and defiance. Unlike Winston, who seeks a grand revolution, Julia focuses on personal liberation and enjoying the present moment. She is practical and resourceful, supplying Winston with black market goods and arranging their secret rendezvous. O'Brien, the enigmatic antagonist. O'Brien is a high-ranking inner-party member who Winston believes is a member of the Brotherhood, a legendary resistance organization. He manipulates Winston and Julia, seemingly offering them a path to rebellion while actually leading them into a trap. O'Brien embodies doublethink, the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously. He is a master manipulator using torture and psychological manipulation to break Winston's spirit and force him to conform. The themes: power, control, and the nature of truth. Totalitarianism and its impact on the individual. The novel explores the dangers of totalitarian regimes and their ability to control not only people's actions, but also their thoughts and beliefs. The nature of truth and reality. The party's control over information and history raises questions about the malleability of truth and the power of those who control the narrative. The importance of individual rebellion. Despite the overwhelming power of the party, Winston's and Julia's acts of rebellion, however futile, highlight the enduring human spirit and its resistance to oppression. The destructive nature of power. O'Brien's chilling pronouncements about the party's motivations reveal the corrupting influence of absolute power and its pursuit for its own sake. The climax and resolution, defeat and conformity. Winston and Julia are captured in their secret room above Mr. Charrington's shop, who is revealed to be a member of the Thought Police. Winston is subjected to brutal torture and psychological manipulation in the Ministry of Love. O'Brien forces Winston to betray Julia and accept the party's version of reality, culminating in his acceptance of the false statement, 2 + 2 = 5. Winston is released, a broken man stripped of his individuality and completely subservient to the party. The novel ends with Winston encountering Julia, but their love is extinguished. They have both been completely reintegrated into the party's system of control. Conclusion: 1984 stands as a cautionary tale about the dangers of totalitarianism and the importance of safeguarding individual freedom and critical thinking. It serves as a reminder of the fragility of truth and the enduring power of the human spirit to resist oppression, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds.
Wrap up. And there you have it. 5 incredible books by 5 iconic authors. The Hunger Games, Collins. In Panem, a nation built on the ruins of North America, Katniss Everdeen volunteers as tribute to save her sister from the brutal Hunger Games. She fights to survive alongside Peter, challenging the capital's control and sparking rebellion. Fahrenheit 451, Bradbury. In a future where books are outlawed, fireman Guy Montag begins to question his role after encountering a young woman who challenges societal norms. He starts reading books, leading to rebellion and, ultimately, his escape from a dystopian society. The Handmaid's Tale, Atwood. In Gilead, a totalitarian theocracy, Offred, a handmaid forced to bear children for the elite, navigates a life of oppression, seeking small acts of rebellion and connection. The story explores themes of control, resistance, and the power of storytelling. Brave New World, Huxley. A futuristic world state uses technology and social engineering, including a caste system and the drug Soma, to maintain stability and happiness. John, a savage outsider, challenges this system, but ultimately fails to reconcile with its values. 1984, Orwell. In Oceania, a totalitarian state ruled by the party, Winston Smith rebels against constant surveillance and thought control by engaging in a forbidden love affair and seeking truth. He is ultimately captured and tortured into conforming. Have you read any? If so, drop a comment below and let us know what you thought. And if you haven't, do they sound like a must-read for you? If you enjoyed today's deep dive, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more book deep dives, and share this video with your fellow book lovers. And until next time on Deep Dive with Smart Bookworms, keep reading, keep growing, and we'll see you in the next one.